I'm Andrew Marotta, host of the Education, Leadership, and Beyond podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you are listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Hey, welcome back. Steve here, and today I'm talking with Andrew Marotta. Andrew is a husband, father, adjunct professor of school leadership, a former Division I men's college basketball official, speaker, and author. Our focus is taking a look at some of Andrew's leadership lessons. He's sharing a glimpse of a couple of his books, and we're learning about the power of his stories. So much to learn. This is so cool. Thanks for listening. Oh, by the way, before you go, it'd be so cool if you helped out the podcast. How could you do that, you ask? Glad you asked. Here are 3 ways. 1, you could tell a friend and share the links. 2, you could go to my website and leave a review and subscribe. And 3, you could click on the link on my website homepage to buy me a coffee. And by doing this, you could donate $1 or $2 to help me address the costs associated with producing the podcast. That would be so cool. You are awesome. Enjoy the show.
It's the Education Podcast, your favorite show, with lots of groovy guests and they share what they know. So crank it up to 10 and let your neighbors know that here's another show with Dr. Steve Milletto. Teaching, learning, leading, K-12. Teaching, learning, leading, K-12. Teaching, learning, leading, K-12. With Dr. Steve Milletto.
Andrew Marotta is the Director of Academic Services and Communications in Port Jervis, New York. He was principal in AP for the last 20 years in the great small city of Port Jervis. He took on a new challenge in the 23-24 school year, moving to this director position, giving him some more flexibility to travel and present nationally as an inspirational speaker. He is a husband, father, adjunct professor of school leadership, former Division I men's college basketball official, speaker, and author. Andrew is also the leader of the Surviving and Thriving movement. Andrew is an energizing and impactful speaker, author, and school leader. He lives the words on his logo and strives to positively impact all he meets. A master storyteller, Andrew engages his audiences and fellow leaders with authentic and heartfelt stories, memorable props, and collaborative, fun, and thought-provoking activities. Additionally, Andrew officiated men's Division I college basketball at the highest level for almost 20 years. ACC, A10, CAA, Patriot, Ivy, MAC, and the new NEC were the conferences he worked, all the while being a school principal. This was quite challenging, and Andrew survived and thrived through it all. Being relentless, showing presence, confidence, and an understanding of people and pressure in the spotlight are all things he learned and brings to his audience while speaking to them on leadership and perseverance. He is a highly sought-after motivational speaker and the author of 5 leadership books, most recently completing a collaborative inspirational book entitled Hats, Heartfelt Acts for Teachers, Students, and Staff. He is married for 22 years to his high school sweetheart, Jennifer, and is blessed with 3 wonderful kids, Claire, Matthew, and Tessa. Andrew, thanks so much for being on the show, and say hi to everyone.
Hey, Steve. It's an honor to be here. The Teaching and Learning Leading podcast. I love the work you're doing, so it's a thrill for me, and certainly appreciate our connection.
Well, it's awesome to have you here, and this is cool. I've been a listener to your podcast for a while now, and so it's nice to connect in person. And one of the things I've got to talk to you about is you officiated men's Division I college basketball for almost 20 years. You were a school principal at the same time. Is there something, that one thing that stands out from other possible lessons that you learned from basketball that impacted you as a school leader?
Great question, Steve, and I love that time. It's almost November as we get into ready to record this, and that means it's basketball time, right? The turning of the leaves, getting cooler, getting those gyms, and I certainly love that time. But yeah, each and every night I learned a lesson. Each and every night, one helped the other, right? When I was at school and I had an angry teacher, an angry parent sitting across from me, right? I learned how to listen to them and hear them. And maybe that night I had an angry coach across the way, I learned how to listen, right? So that's helping me there. I also learned, and we kind of joked off air about being live. I got great advice as an official, and it helped me as a principal. They said, only blow the whistle when you're right. And it sounds so simple, right? It sounds so, yeah, and of course, why would you, but it really helped you pause. It really helped you really focus on the situation. And if something was dicey, if you didn't see it correctly, if you weren't sure, don't blow, right? Don't blow unless you know. And that was the same for school. I didn't want to enforce a rule if it wasn't clear. I didn't want to drop the hammer or make a big decision if it wasn't clear. If I could wait and process a little more, I would do that. Those helped me. In both the roles, Steve, you had to look the part, you had to act the part. You're doing a hard job, but when you could do it with a smile, when you could do it with some enthusiasm and a little, humanness, right? A smile, a wink. I think those both helped it. And lastly is, enforce the rules as they're written. In school, you want to be flexible with things, but certainly when you follow the guidelines, when you follow the regulations, when you follow the procedures, you're gonna be okay. When I can answer a coach and say, Coach, by rule, this is a foul. By rule, it's a travel. I could explain what the rule was, not try to explain away, but explain it. So those things help serve in each role as principal and as referee.
I love that. I can only imagine that, because the higher up you go in those divisions, the time interacting with some who are, from questioning authority to, whether you actually need a eye examination or, they've started teaching you a new type of, some sort of sign language to explain different things, that you'd have to have some sort of resilient, some sort of, switch that you can make sure doesn't get flipped during that time. And I know that as a principal, that is a huge deal too. Like you said, choosing when to blow that whistle and such, I think is so important because you better be right. So I love that.
That's right. Yeah.
You share that you're the leader of the surviving and thriving movement. Could you share what you mean?
Yeah, again, thinking about those two jobs, thinking about being a parent, thinking about being a husband, we're always surviving and thriving, right? Like some of those games, you would just hope that you could get through it. Sometimes in the school year, you got 4 night functions in a row. You're having a parent night, then you have a varsity game, and then you're hosting a informational thing, and then you got to go to the musical, right? Like you're exhausted. You want to get home. You want to put your feet up. You want to rest. You want to not be in front of the computer, I wanted to thrive. I wanted to be great at the job. And you look at it and, there's so many times where you weren't, but it's through that. It's through the surviving that you can thrive. I actually just had an interaction with a former alumni. He's on Broadway here in New York City, Steve, and he's starring on Broadway. He's in one of the musicals.
Nice.
The amount of struggles, the amount of failures of not getting hired at tryouts or rehearsals, things like that. The amount of times you're told no, the amount of times you hit the wrong key, right? You're surviving through those. You're just hoping for another chance. And here he is thriving, right? How many times did you screw up a faculty meeting? How many times did you spell something wrong in a memo? How many times did you, maybe hire the wrong person? Those are struggles. Those are real things. But it's through those, I don't want to call them mistakes, learning points, feedback. They're not mistakes because there's only feedback, Steve. That's part of the journey there. So to me, all of that is surviving and thriving, and it's really summed up in the 5 SWs, Steve. It's a mindset, it's a tool, it's a strategy. They're the 5 SWs, and they are. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. So what? Someone's waiting. Stick with it. And to me, you mentioned persistence before, resilience. That's what surviving and thriving is, and it's been my whole life. It's been my whole life. There, people look at it and say, "Oh, you're an author. Oh, you're a speaker. Oh, you're this, you're that." It's a grind to get through it. It's a struggle to get through those things. But I try to enjoy the journey and learn from those. Again, they're not failures. They're just feedback.
Love that. Thanks. I love those SWs. I like that's excellent. Excellent stuff.
You're going to get the next one, Steve.
Awesome. So, all right. So something you share and others share about you is that you're a storyteller. Talk about the purpose of your stories and where they come from.
Yeah. Facts tell and stories sell, Steve. And educators might say, well, I'm not a salesperson. Oh, yeah? Really? You're not selling inspiration? You're not selling education? You're not selling your school? You're not living your school? I know we're on audio, but I got my Port Jervis logo here. I got my Port Jervis stuff on the wall. I'm selling everything Port Jervis, right? I want it to all be good, but we know it's not always good. And I think stories help with that. If you're going to start an assembly, if you're going to start a thing, if you can say, let me tell you a story, you're going to get people's attention, right? You've heard speakers. The best teachers are storytellers, Steve. TED Talks. I love TED Talks. I've read books on TED Talks. I've given a TED Talk. They're 18 minutes. Well, out of those 18 minutes, Steve, 12 are stories. And you got to tell the right story at the right time to the right people. So here's a story. You were talking about the refereeing, right? You like the 5 SWs? Well, here's one. E plus R equals O. Here's another one. And here's a story that says that. So I go try out for the ACC, right? When you try out for these things, you literally go to a camp and you try out. You got to go ref games. People are sitting there with clipboards. They're watching you. Do you have the call right? What do you look like? What do you sound like? Are you smiling? All of those things. You pay $500. I had to get 3 nights at a hotel. I got to get a car rental. I got to pay a flight to get there, right? It's a minimum $1,500 to $2,000 investment to just go try out. There's 75 guys there, Steve. They might hire 1 or 2, maybe 3. So I show up and I say, hey, man, I'm Andrew Marotta. And the lady at the registration table, she's looking at her list. She's saying, oh, okay. What's your name? I said, Andrew Marotta. And I'm looking at the paper. I'm looking over the desk, right? And I don't see my name. I'm like, what the? It's in alphabetical order. I'm like, what the? And she goes, oh. And she crosses out number 44. And then she says, oh, yeah. And she writes in Andrew Marotta. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? What are you doing? Oh, yeah, no. This, you're number 44. And I'm looking at this going, what the? And I walk away from the table going, I was a fill-in. I wasn't even on the original list. So now I'm getting heated, right? $2,000 away from my family. I got no shot. Well, I go back to my room and I look at myself in the mirror, Steve. E plus R equals O. And I say, man, I'm gonna show these people. I'm not on this list. Well, I'm gonna dang get on their list. They're gonna know who I am before this tryout is done. And I woke up the next morning like a man electrified, Steve. I said, I'm gonna get in there. I'm gonna be the fastest, sharpest. I'm gonna get every call right. How dare they not put me on the list? That's ridiculous. And bam, I went in there and I did just that, Steve. And during the second day, the supervisor walked out. I didn't even see him behind me. I feel his hand on my shoulder. And he says, Andrew, I don't know who you are or where you're from, but I'm going to hire you because I like the fire within you. I like the way you're working. And I said, man, yes. And they gave me a shot, and it eventually led to me getting in the ACC. But it goes back to the premise, Steve. Events. Things happen. Events happen, right? And you want a positive outcome. Oh, right? You want a good result. You want a good outcome from it. E plus R equals O. Events, outcomes. Well, what's the R, Steve, right? What's the R? The R is how we respond to these things. It's not what you're going through, it's where you're going to. And how you respond to these events is going to give the outcome. If I had said, man, this is going to be a waste of my time and money, that's ridiculous. I want a refund. Where's the manager? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Or, man, this is a scam, right? What do people say all the time? Oh, it's politics. It's who you know. I didn't know one person there, Steve, and I wasn't even on the list. But I got hired. They gave me an opportunity there. So back to your original question, do I just tell kids to show up with a good attitude? Do I just tell adults, hey, man, things happen in life. It's how you respond to it. Or do I tell them a real live story that involves emotions, money, opportunity, which led to something fantastic in my life, right? And so it goes back to storytelling. I don't like to just talk about a fact. I want to tell a story that's related to that.
That's awesome. As you're telling that story, one of the things I love about it is that, I would either myself or been with others, when something causes you to think one way or the other, and you could let your attitude either destroy your day or help make your day. And that's a cool story right there, because if you done any of that other stuff, like you were describing before, that hand may not have been on your shoulder, but instead the fire was in there and made it happen. So I love that.
It's how you show up. It's how you respond.
Love it. One of the things that I got to ask you here, it has to do with this. I mean, what is something that drives you to help educators with your life lessons? I mean, what's a thing that just says, I got to do this?
Yeah. Yeah. I love my school district here, Steve, Port Jervis. I'm focused here. They welcomed me. They gave me an opportunity, right? They could have hired somebody else. They gave me an opportunity, and I didn't know anybody here either. I moved to Port Jervis. I moved out of New York City, and we had a 60% graduation rate, Steve, right? And that's kind of just how it was, right? They smoked in the school. The facilities weren't great, and if they don't graduate, they'll go work. They'll work in the factory. They'll go do this. They'll go do that. Well, I was watching kids not graduate. I was watching kids not be successful, man. I was like, golly, we gotta do something here. That ain't good enough. And through a lot of hard work of a lot of people coming together, leadership and teachers and educators, like, we changed the culture here. But I realized all of us had to get better. We had to talk better about our work. We had to talk more positive about our school, about the results we were looking for, right? You set a goal, you boom. And we had to be better, right? It wasn't good enough. And that's hard to tell people, hey man, it's not good enough, but 60% graduation rate wasn't good enough. So I learned a lot of lessons in there about change and people and mindsets, right? Are you going to build people up by yelling at them and tell them they're not doing a good job? Or are you going to build people up by showing positive examples and things that people could do better? And hey, what about this strategy? And look at this result. Look, acting this way or doing this thing produced a different result. And I wanted to do more. I wanted to inspire educators outside of Port Jervis, right? So many good things happen here. And I'm blessed. I got ADD, Steve. I got it's a blessing, not a curse. My brain goes fast, right? So I have thoughts about, hey, what this could help somebody else. This book could help somebody else. This article could help somebody else. This podcast, and I kind of put it into a book about helping other principals because they were surviving and thriving, right? They were barely just surviving. I met a lot of other principals, like underwater. So how can we help those principals get above water? Because if the principal is going to be successful, if the principal is feeling good about the work they're doing, that's going to translate down to the school. You were a principal. They say if the principal sneezes, everyone gets a cold in the school. Well, my mindset went from helping Port Jervis to helping our educators, helping our kids, to helping the neighboring schools, to helping other people to kind of, and that's that surviving and thriving mission about trying to help others. I don't know. You want schools to be better and help impacts the community, seeing kids go on and do bigger and better things. So I don't know where, it started during the journey in Port Jervis, really, is where it came from.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I got to tell you, I've read through several of your books now, and I just wish I'd had you when I started back then. All right. And so before we go any further, I got to get you to talk about your podcast. You have a podcast. It's called Educational Leadership and Beyond. Tell everybody a little bit about what you talk about.
Yeah, I'm just happy to have you on, scheduled here in 2026. I tried to book you, but you're so busy. I mean, can't get you on there,
Nice.
Just like we're talking now, Steve, I love learning from other educators. I love hearing people's stories, their journey, and how did they get to the position they're in. As I shared here in school, I just, interviewed one of our students who was on Broadway, right? How did he get there? What were the lessons he learned? What were the failures? Who were the people that helped him? I love hearing those stories. And so it's called Education, Leadership, and Beyond. You can find it on all my socials. I do it live, Steve, right? Just like my life, it's live. So there's no editing, there's no cuts. It's just, it's on video and audio. And I love meeting great people to hear their story, but then share their story, right? We all can learn. People are relatable, right? I just told you the story about E plus R equals O, right? Not being on the list. Well, we've all had that situation and people can relate. Yeah, I remember when I tried out for blah, 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 right? And people can relate to that. So I love meeting people, men, women, black, white, green, right? Whatever it is, we're all surviving and thriving. We're all trying to get better. We're all trying to grow. And people that listen to podcasts or watch podcasts are looking to grow and get better. So how can we give them some good content and meet some cool people? So I love it.
That's awesome. Great show. And listeners, you got to make sure you go check it out. Subscribe, follow.
Thank you for that, Steve. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. All right. So you've written several books. One is called Dads, Leaders, and Father Figures. One's Tales from the Hardwood. You have Hats, Heartfelt Acts for Teachers, Students, and Staff. You have The Partnership. You have The School Leaders and The Principal. What is it that inspired you to get your first book completed and into the others' hands? I mean, because it's one thing to have ideas for books. It's another thing to get it done.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Steve. And you certainly did your homework there for sure. So I'll start with the Success Hotline. And I'm going to read that number here, the Success Hotline. That number is 973-743-4690. One more time, that's 973-743-4690. A friend of mine told me to call the Success Hotline. So just like I told you here, I started calling and bam, I met Dr. Rob Gilbert. Dr. Rob Gilbert is a sports psychologist, Montclair State University. And Dr. Rob, since 1992, Steve, since 1992, every day has left a message about being successful on the hotline. It's a voicemail. Now it's a podcast also, but it's a voicemail. And you could call and then you could leave him a message. And if, you want to be in touch, whatever, we get, he calls people back. He has Zoom seminars. So I met him and he says, Andrew, man, I'd love to meet you. I'd love to have you come to my class as a principal and a referee. Why don't you come to my class and present? So I said, sure, right? You say yes to opportunities. You don't know where they're going to go. So it's an hour away from my home. I go there and we hit it off. I had a great time. I loved his message. I loved his class. It was awesome. And he liked my message. He liked my style. And when we were done, Steve, he hands me 10 books and 2 of them were his. And he says, Andrew, you were awesome. Where's your book? I said, I can't write a book. I can't. I got ADD. I got little kids at home. I'm a ref. I'm a principal. I'm busy. I don't even have time to go to the bathroom. He said, Andrew, you got to write a book. You were fantastic. I said, I don't write a book. He said, you don't have to know how, Andrew. He said, just write down the things that you're doing as a principal and it'll help other people. I got ADD, Steve. It's a superpower, not a disability. I didn't text and drive on the way home. But I did talk to text on the way home, that hour drive, and I had 60 things about being a principal. The next day at school, we always have something to write with. The next day at school, 40 more. And in less than 24 hours, Steve, I had 100 of the things I did as a principal, which I said, maybe he's right. Maybe I could write a book. And once I had the things I was doing as a principal, right? Be prepared for meetings. Pick up paper on the floor, know people's names, the kitchen cabinet. All I had to do was kind of fill them in with a 1 or 2 page Google Doc. And I just filled them all in and I put them all together and it became a book. And that's what happened. Oh, excuse me. And the book was a success. The book resonated and related with people and leaders liked that it's short vignettes, as you called them. And little stories, little things. They can read it quickly. You can just pick it up and pick a section. I'm actually visiting with a class of people getting their degree, their admin degree. And there's one of the activities I do is called, pick a page. And they're literally just going to pick a page and we're going to talk about it. We're going to share. So that's how it happened. That's the format of most of my books up until this point, including, Steve, I know we're on video. This is the draft copy here, but this is the next book. And it says The Magic Acronyms, Formulas, and Impactful Stories of Leadership, a tribute to the amazing Dr. Rob Gilbert and the Success Hotline. This is the draft copy. That's that line through it. So I just proofread it, and it's actually going to print here November of 2025.
Awesome. Congrats on that. That's cool.
Yeah. It was a great run, man. It was a lot of fun.
It's excellent. I wanted to delve into one, so I chose one of your books, and I'm going to come back to your latest one, so I can get you to say a few words about hats. But before we do that, I'm a former high school principal, so I'm like, I got to get him to talk about a couple things out of the principal book. And so, like I said, having been a high school principal, my favorite book is The Principal, Surviving and Thriving, 125 Points of Wisdom, Practical Tips, and Relatable Stories for All Leaders. And in Chapter 1, Be a Better Leader, it starts with this: treat every kid as if they are your kid. Talk about this.
Yeah. And I write like I talk, Steve. I write pretty, factual. That's not some fable or some riddle, right? Every kid that's walking through that hallway is smiling. Every kid has a parent that loves them. Every kid that they have hopes and dreams for that child, right? And they might be a scutch. They might drop paper on the floor. They might use foul language. They might fool around in class. But somebody somewhere loves that kid and they want the best for them. Not every kid is the same. Everyone's a little bit different. And you might say, this kid's a pain in the neck, right? They're driving you nuts. But there's somebody on the other end of the phone. There's somebody down the block, again, who loves that kid. So when you think like that, this person is somebody's hope and future. And so you try to do the best for that kid, even though they might drive you crazy, even though they might have just graffitied the bathroom that you just redone, even though they're the one that started the food fight, which ruined your day and caused a mess in the cafeteria, and you got to punish that kid. Their hopes and dreams are there. So you got to do it with love and respect and a relationship forward. They're not just a number. They're not just some kid that's a bad kid, right? There's no bad kids. That kid is somebody's love and joy, and they all want the best for them. No parent shows up at our doorstep, whether it's in Port Jervis, whether it's in Georgia, wherever you are, Steve. They show up with hopes and dreams for that kid. And when we realize that as the leaders, we're going to go at that kid a little different, especially during those tough situations.
That's awesome. I love it. And it is difficult because there are some that will challenge you go ahead. Try and.
Here's another story. My son now delivers pizza here in the Port Jervis community. We live in the neighboring community, but my son is delivering pizza here. And he's meeting all kinds of people, right? He's meeting parents at the house. He's meeting people at the pizzeria. And my son's 17 now. And he's meeting people that are in their 20s and 30s, and I was their principal. And they're telling my son, your dad was the best. Your dad, I was the worst kid in school. And your dad forgave me. Your dad hugged me. Your dad helped me out. Your dad wasn't too tough on me. And now here's my son, who I'm hard on, hearing that from other grown people in their 30s. They're saying, you better listen to your dad. He knows what he's doing, right? My son doesn't think I know what I'm doing. And to hear those stories, right, and go back 10, 15 years to say, man, God, that kid was a pain in the neck, but that's how he's speaking about me, not to anybody, but to my own son. That's why I treated that kid as if he was my son. And look what the cycle has happened now. So it's a beautiful story,
I love it. That is so awesome. Especially, I love the part that you're talking about where, he's hearing it, and it's, letting him make some decisions too about you. So
Maybe my dad's not so, not so, he's all right,
yeah, that's awesome. I love it. All right. So, I love the way you use, like you said just a minute ago, this is where I'm talking about it. I love the way you use short vignettes to share anecdotes about being a better leader. Later in that same chapter, you say, remember that facts tell, stories sell. And you've said that a couple of times already. So let's talk about that. We got to.
Well, I mean, what are they going to remember, Steve? What are they going to remember? Are they going to remember the facts of the lesson? Or that the teacher, traveled to Europe and they fell off the boat and they did A, B, and C. I think when you lead with, let me tell you a story, right? I think there's lessons there. We taught the kids about being, good kids, right? But when you could model what that looks like, or you could share a story, right? And not everyone is about you. Not everyone is about yourself, right? You tell maybe untrue stories or made up stories, right? So here's a story about a brother and a sister, right? Joe and Mary. And Joe and Mary were crossing the street one day, and unfortunately, Joe got hit by a car and very serious injury. And Joe got rushed to the hospital, and Mary was devastated. She saw us. Oh my God, Mary was 7 and Joe's 9. Like, oh my God, I got hit by a car. And they get to the hospital, and Joe and Mary's parents are upset and crying, and they go to Mary and they say, hey, Mary, your brother lost a lot of blood. He's really sick. He's really hurt. Can you donate some blood to him? You have the same blood type. Can you donate some blood to him? And Mary says, of course, I'll donate some blood to him. So they hook Mary up. They're doing it quickly to try to get it. And all of a sudden the blood's coming out, and there's Mary, and Mary's crying, and she starts crying, and she looks at her mom and dad and she says, well, when do I die? And their mom and dad said, well, what are you talking about, Mary? You're not going to die. And she said, well, I'm giving my blood to Joe, so I'm going to die. When am I going to die? And they realized that they never told her that she's going to get the blood back, and she didn't understand the process. So when we talk about loving your siblings, right, we don't just say love your sibling. You could tell a story like that Mary was going to give her life for her brother, right? And I think those stories help people remember, because when you're telling those kids that story, and the kids who are hearing it, maybe their names are Melissa and Michael, when Melissa's being mean to her brother, she might think back to that story of that girl that was going to give her life for her brother, right? And so I always lead with stories. You tell the right story at the right time for the right people. And you asked earlier, where do you get them? They're everywhere, Steve. Those stories are everywhere. They're in books. They're in movies. They're everywhere you go. There are stories. Think about this concept, Steve. Ready? If I give you $1 and you give me $1, Steve, how many dollars do we each have?
You give me $1 and I give you $1?
Yeah. How many dollars do we each have?
We each have one.
Each have one. If I give you a story, Steve, and you give me a story, how many stories do we each have, Steve?
Well, we each have the story that we gave each other.
Huh?
And then the possibility.
I have my story,
right.
But now I have your story too.
Right.
We each have two. They compound. When you give them away, it doesn't mean you lose the story. You're just sharing it. You're giving it to somebody else. So the stories compound. So anywhere I go, I'm constantly writing down stories and hearing different strategies and ways to do it. So the stories are everywhere, Steve.
I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about the book. Chapter 2, remember the premium value of people and relationships. This is an awesome chapter. One of my favorite segments is develop your kitchen cabinet for a reliable crew of advisors. So what do you mean?
Yeah. And you really did your homework, Steve. I'm impressed. You read the books. You're really prepared for the show. That says a lot about you and your leadership there. So Thank you for that, Steve.
You're welcome.
I learned that from my superintendent. He called it your kitchen cabinet. You're going to make a hard decision. You got something weighing on your mind, different than refereeing, right? You have this play in front of you, you got to make a quick decision. Is it a foul? Is it not a foul, right? Well, school life's a little different, right? Maybe I'm going to ask a trusted advisor like Steve Miletto. Maybe I'm going to go ask that retired principal, say, hey, man, I got this situation. Maybe I'm going to ask my lead teacher, say, hey, I'm thinking of doing this with our teaching staff. What do you think about that, right? My best teacher. I'm not going to ask the loudest teacher or the person who complains the most, because they're going to complain no matter what. I'm going to ask my best people. I learned that from Todd Whitaker. And again, in the end, I got to make the decision. This isn't a democracy. I got to make the decision. I'm the leader. I got to make a but I'm going to get input from people. And then I'm an Italian, Steve. I like the term percolate, like my coffee. I'm going to let it percolate a night, maybe two, right? Sleep on it. Maybe I'll think about it on that drive. I might even ask somebody outside the field of education. Maybe it's the barber, right? The barbers are the best advisors. They listen to everybody. Maybe it's the business person down the block. Maybe it's my cousin who sells insurance, right? He deals with people. Maybe I want to hear what his perspective is. And those are your kitchen cabinet. They're people you trust. They're people that will be confidential. They're people that you would value their opinion. Sometimes in education, the loudest person is the one we're taking the feedback from because they're shouting at the loudest, or they're sending you the email, or they're showing up in your office at 7:05 because they're not happy. But Brene Brown, a leader I respect, says if you're not asking somebody their opinion if you're not asking them their opinion, why are you listening to them, right? I value the opinion of the people I trust, I admire. That doesn't mean I don't listen to feedback from maybe some others, right? Maybe if there is an issue and I'm hearing it from different people, but I'm valuing that kitchen cabinet, and I got a wide variety of people in there. You know what I mean? So it's about asking the right people the right questions.
I love it. That's awesome. It's one of the biggest lessons I ever learned is, create that group of advisors that you can go to and say, so what do you think? Because if you don't, you're going to live or die by that hill. So,
and if you get 0 for 7, you probably shouldn't do it.
Exactly. I love it. All right. So your most recent book is Hats, Heartfelt Acts for Teachers, Students, and Staff. So, So give us a little blurb about why someone should read that one.
Well, and different than some of the other ones, I co-wrote that with two amazing school leaders, Jay Billy and Brian McCann. Jay's from New Jersey, Brian's from New England. And so if you're thinking of writing a book, a great way to maybe take some easy, make it a little easier, you don't have to do all the heavy lifting, is co-writing it. So those two guys are great leaders. And Jay, I saw you picking up the book. Steve and I are on Zoom as we're recording this, so we can see each other. But on the cover is all of us in front of the school bus with a bunch of kids and different hats on. And Jay would do that every day. I heard him talk about that on a podcast, Steve. And I was like, wow, what a cool idea, And I was at a conference and someone said, hey, what's something that that either you do or somebody else does that, is a simple way to make a positive impact on others? And I answered about Jay with the hats, and he wears a different hat. And one day it's a sombrero, one day it's a Giants helmet, one day it's a fedora, one day it's a banana, like crazy hats. And the kids laugh, and parents would be like, oh, Mr. Billy, look at that hat. And it kind of stuck in my head, like, wow, what a cool thing to do for kids. Like, what a cool spirit activity. What a heartfelt act. I like acronyms, right? You heard the name of my other book, right? Acronyms, different things, little things that people can catch on. And I said, man, what could be an acronym for hats, right? He's putting on a physical hat, but it's more than that. It's an act. It's an action. And then the acronym just came to me, Steve. My brain, and things always ticking. It's always going. It's always running. And it just came to me. That was a heartfelt act for not just the kids, for teachers, students, and staff. It was for everybody. And I ran it by Jay. I said, hey, what do you think of that? And he said, I love it. Let's do it. I always admired Brian. He's got a lot of great spirit. And then we all threw a bunch of hats into the book Hats.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, you know, one of the things that's just really awesome about the way you write is that it is like you talk, and it is easy to read and understand, and create your own pictures and your own stories. Start kind of, you know, coming back alive and stuff like this about things that fit the tale that you're talking about. And I love it. That's cool.
And people that know me, Steve, one of the best compliments I've ever gotten is, Andrew, I feel like you're reading the book to me.
Nice.
I can hear your accent, they would tell me.
Nice. Love it. All right, so let's talk about you as a presenter. You're an engaging presenter. What can an audience expect to experience when you're the keynote or trainer?
Yeah, as I shared with you, I was just at the New York Principals Association, beautiful Lake George, New York. Also very fortunate. I keynoted the Illinois Principals Association conference in Peoria, Illinois recently. Another great organization there. And I'm honored to speak at those places. I'm honored to be chosen as a speaker. Everything on my logo, Steve. My logo AM, if you know me, if you Google it, it's on my website. But there's 5 E's on there. That's not the 5 SWs, but there's 5 E's. And the first 2 are energy and enthusiasm. The second 2 are extra effort. And the last one is all leading to excellence. Those 4 are all leading to excellence. And that's what I bring, right? I want energy, enthusiasm, spirit. I'm going to have people up and clapping. I'm going to give you practical things you could use. I just told you a couple stories, right? Those are strategies, right? We're you and I are video, but right, here's my magic wand I'm showing you, right? And I'll tell a story and I'll relate something that it's not magic, it's intentional acts, but I'll do a prop with it. I get people thinking, I get people laughing, I get people talking to each other and sharing movement. It's not a lecture. And I want to move people's emotions, Steve, right? I want you to laugh and cry. I want to fill your heart with inspiration, but again, going back to those practical strategies. And in the end, what can I do? Meaning the audience, what can I do to go impact my school district, to go impact my business? I don't just speak to schools. I also speak to business leaders and civic groups, police organizations, right? I want them walking out of there saying, this was one of the best presentations I've ever been to. I can't wait to get back to my desk to start doing some of these things. And I try to motivate and inspire people to do more in their school community through the stories, through the actions, through the videos, through the thing. It's very fast. I go fast. I tell them to buckle up because you're certainly not going to be bored. That's for sure, you know, but that's my style. Yeah.
Love it. That's awesome. Awesome stuff. All right. So here's a scenario for you. If you had the chance to be the closing keynote where the audience, they were all first-year principals. They're getting ready to go into their schools. They're going back to their systems. And what they all have in common is they're first-year principals. They're going to that first year. What is something that you would want them to be talking about when they left your talk?
Yeah, here's my magic wand again, Steve, you know. Good luck, right? First year, that's a hard learning curve for sure. You know, go get them. No, all kidding aside, I mean, there's a lot of first years out there. We're recording this in October. People are in their second month, right? And it goes back to that surviving and thriving. Many times you have imposter syndrome. You're thinking you're not good enough. You're thinking, oh my God, did I make a mistake? What am I doing? I would say 5 things, Steve, and I jotted these down. Number 1, show up with a smile. My friend Kelly from Kentucky shared something when she was on my podcast, and she said, watch your face, right? Show up with a smile. A lot of times as principal, you're aggravated or you're frustrated or you're rushing, or put a smile on. High five that kid, right? Listen to that staff member. Number 1, show up with a smile. Number 2, it's all going to work out. You think you're terrible. You think you're doing a terrible job. 12 things went wrong today. It was a disaster. Well, the sun's going to rise tomorrow. The bell is going to ring in the school tomorrow. Show up it's all going to work out. Number three, you got to take care of yourself first. I was a principal almost 20 years, right? You got to take care of yourself, your family, and then your school and your outside passions is third. If you don't have an outside passion, if you're going home and you're checking your emails and you're writing your faculty meeting plan and you're looking at your strategic plan at 8 o'clock at night and your kids are in the other room playing and you're not with them, something's not right. You take care of yourself, you take care of your family, and then you take care of the school and your passions. Third, there got to be a tie for third there. After every event, you're sitting down, you're asking the kitchen cabinet, you're getting feedback. You're not sending out a blanket email to the whole staff and the whole district saying, hey, how was the faculty meeting? But you are getting the pulse of things, right? Start, stop, continue, and add. What are you going to start? What are you going to stop? What are you going to continue? And what are you going to add, right? I would constantly do that. After this podcast is done, when you release it, I'm going to go back and listen to it. Did I talk too much? Did I answer the question? Was I entertaining? Was I energetic? I'm going to go back and look at it. What am I going to start? What am I going to stop? What am I going to add? Am I going to continue? And lastly, I would encourage those leaders to enjoy the journey, Steve. It goes fast. I look back at my time in Port Jervis and again, I'm still here as the director, but I'm not the principal role. But there was so many hurdles to go through. Did I have a frown on my face? Was I angry, right? Try to enjoy the journey, feel grateful for the jobs that we have, the people that love us, our health, our district, right? We have good jobs. We have a pension. We have a paycheck when there's a snow day. We have a paycheck through COVID. I know there's layoffs in education. I know that happens, but you got pretty good job security that you could support your family with a salary that is deserved, by Educator. So try to enjoy the journey. That's what I would tell those new principals.
Awesome. Love it. Great messages. Great messages. Good stuff. All right. So, Andrew, about to finish up. And before we close, one of the things I want to ask you is, could you share a little bit about your online professional library? I mean, this is pretty cool what you do here.
Yeah, no, and again, I'm always looking to grow, Steve. I always want to get better. I always want to help other people. And not everyone could go to a conference. Not everyone could leave, and they spend all that money on the conference. Maybe the district says no. Well, hey, can I take a course with Andrew Marotta on public speaking? Can I take a course with Andrew Marotta on my routines and strategies and systems as a school leader? Those courses are affordable. They're $20 and $40, right? It's an online course. They're all on my website through a group called Responsive Learning out of Texas. They put all the graphics, they put everything up there. I created the shows, and they're all in a 45 to 50-minute block there. They get a certified kind of completion paper upon completion that they could submit for, whether it's a salary increase or contractual obligations. They provide that for them. But in the end, it's a way they can do it on their time, at their desk, that they can grow. And again, just like if I was speaking in person, I want to fill their hearts with inspiration, as well as give them practical strategies, fill their pockets with tools that they can use. So they're on my website. They're on the Responsive Learning website. And I've done 50 of them, Steve, and I'm proud of that and grateful for that opportunity. I've also have some courses with ELN, the Education Leaders Network, and that is through the Illinois Principals Association. I have courses on there that I've recorded that people can take and sign up for. So that's helped me grow professionally, but more important, I hope it can help some leaders and educators out there.
Excellent. Love it. And good stuff. I love the topics. I was going through looking at different topics and stuff, and great stuff. Good, helpful topics.
Yeah.
All right. So, Andrew, we're about to finish up. I got two last questions for you. And the first one goes like this. Where can our listeners find additional information, connect, and learn more?
I'm a lot of Marotta, Steve, so it's all over. Just Google it. It's on my website. It's on my social media. My email is andrewmarotta, LLC @gmail.com. But it really is all on my social medias and my website. Easy way to find me.
Excellent. I'll put that information in the show notes. And here's the last question. Do you have a teacher in your past who made a difference in your life? If so, who was it? And what would you say if given the chance to say thank you?
Wow. So many people that have helped shape me, Steve. So many people, my coaches, my referee supervisors, those kinds of people, all the people that gave me opportunities, whether it was my first job teaching, my first job here in Port Jervis. I'm gonna shout out two people, Steve. One is Father Joe Mastardi. He's an Augustinian priest. My parents made me go to church, right? A lot of times I was bored as a kid with ADD, but Father Joe spoke with props, told stories, walked in and down the aisles. When he was doing the holy water, he threw it right in my face, right? All fun things that brought me into the church. He brought me my attention with stories. I thought about being a priest, Steve. But he was a great storyteller, he was a great speaker. And I used to sit there and say, man, I love these stories, right? He didn't just say, love other people, right? He brought in a life-size lock, a giant 6-foot lock, and he'd open it and he'd say, God wants you to open your heart to other people and love other people. I remember that, and that was 40 years ago, Steve, but he told a story with a prop, and I was a kid that didn't want to pay attention in church. But I remember those things. He wound up marrying my wife, and I became a great friend. We volunteered with him through the Augustinian Volunteers. So I certainly would say thank you to Father Joe Mastardi, Augustinian priest out of Villanova University in Pennsylvania. And second, the people here in Port Jervis, Steve. It's my second home. They gave me a chance. People like John Exanthus, Tom Bon Jovi, and our current superintendent, John Bell, Dr. Bell, gave me this opportunity as the director. I do all of our social media. I do all of our creative content. I have a flexible job that I can be off from Port Jervis to go present and speak. And it's a true win-win. So I'm humbly grateful for them and the opportunities they gave. But all my teachers growing up, they had patience with me. I was the last Marotta. I say the best one, but I was the last one. My brother and sisters are pain in the neck, so certainly thank them for their patience as well. So yeah, just grateful for the opportunities that I've been given.
That's awesome. Love it. Andrew, thank you so much for talking with us about you, the Surviving and Thriving movement, your podcast, Education, Leadership, and Beyond, your book, The Principles, Surviving and Thriving, 125 Points of Wisdom, Practical Tips, and Relatable Stories for All Leaders, and for being such an awesome guest. You're an inspiration, fun, and extremely helpful. Wishing you the best in all you do.
Thank you, Steve. The Teaching, Learning, and Leading K-12 podcast is awesome. Definitely give it a follow and a good review. And I admire your work, Steve. So thank you.
Hey, you have been listening to Teaching, Learning, Leading K-12, a podcast to help you help kids achieve their dreams. Teaching, Learning, Leading K-12 is a member of the Education Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. Teaching, Learning, Leading K-12 is a member of the podcast network based in Canada called Voice Ed Radio. Voice Ed Radio, your voice is right here. The opinions expressed on Teaching, Learning, Leading K-12 are those of the guests and host. Teaching, Learning, Leading K-12 is intended to share ideas, advice, and suggestions. Teaching, Learning, Leading K-12 is produced for educational purposes. Hey, thanks for listening. It would be awesome if you visited my website at stephenmiletto.com and connected with me, left a review, and listened to more episodes. And by the way, you could also share it with your friends, with your family, and your colleagues. Thanks so much. You're awesome.